What's up guys, Russ here again. We got a ton of responses to yesterday's video and I was actually kind of surprised that it took till response like number 50 before Kevin Thompson was like, what? You're just gonna give up on the original hero car from this channel that you've owned for forever now? So I owe you guys an update on the Firebird. I absolutely love the Firebird and I'm not giving up on it lightly, but I am at a bit of a sanity checkpoint, for lack of a better way of putting it, because once it became apparent that the Army was not going to let me go to create my dream video series of turning my 3-track cars into the perfect versions of themselves, I contacted some shops about fixing all the stuff that's wrong with the Firebird. It falls into basically 8 major categories of stuff that I want to get fixed on it, which I'll get into later. Of the 4 shops I contacted, 2 of them went back and forth with me about price, and the one that finally gave me like a solid number said it was going to be somewhere north of $40,000, hopefully less than 50. And that's a hard pill to swallow. For a year here, I clear about $51,000 after taxes. And to put that quantity of money into a car that's worth maybe $4 grand on a good day, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's a real sanity check. Of the 8 major issues, we'll begin with just basic maintenance, which when you have a 20-year-old car, it's going to be a problem. And the big thing I run into with the car is defective parts. So headlight motors, I got 3 defective ones. Ended up having to rebuild it with brass gears on my own. It's wasted a whole weekend, just trying to fix headlight motors. I've gotten 6 defective oxygen sensors, and so the only way I found to run the engine is in open loop mode. I can't get it to run in closed loop mode because I can't find functional oxygen sensors for the car anymore, which is ridiculous. Oh, and then lastly, and possibly most frustrating, because this put the car down for about 6 months, was the fuel system. I couldn't find fuel pressure regulators that worked. Not necessarily the regulator, but the cup that the regulator sits in. I made a whole forum thread on it. Here are some pictures of the solution that I came up with. And basically what I did is I slowed down the leak after spending close to $1,000 on parts. Like, I tried replacement fuel pumps, whole assemblies, pressure regulators, and aftermarket stuff. And the best I could come up with was this crazy fix with hose clamps. And the next issue with the car is just an inherent design flaw to the fuel system. The 98s have got the steel fuel tank, and it's not sumped the way that the plastic tank is sumped. And so at high G loading, the car starts to starve for fuel. And if you go below a half tank with even all-season tires, the car starts to starve. If you get sticky tires, it starts to starve for fuel as low as 2/3 of a tank of gas. So you got to brim the thing every time you go out on track, and that's just frustrating. Next is the rear end. This should come as no surprise to F-body fans. The 10-bolt, 7.5-inch. It's super efficient at getting power to the ground, but it's not reliable. And I'm on the 4th rebuild since the car came back from Germany, and it probably is in need of a 5th rebuild. So I think my best option is to put an 8.8 out of a Mustang with a torsion differential out of the Boss 302 in the car, but that's expensive, around $3,000. Next is the trans, because of the issues I had with the LS7 clutch and the pilot bearing. The trans works, but it's super notchy and it needs a rebuild. Next, the whole front suspension needs to be rebuilt. Run sticky tires in the car at the LS Fest, tore out the lower control arm bushings. And so you really feel that when you turn the car in. It just, like, the front end just has a lot more give to it than it used to. On that note, the shocks and springs are from 2009, and the springs are pretty rusty from being driven in German winters. And there is no track harder on shocks than the Nürburgring. So it needs basically a full suspension rebuild, which is around $2,000. Second to last is the steering column. So it's got the classic F-body, like, loose steering column, and really it's any car built by GM from like 1950 until the 1990s had that same steering column. And I tried the 4 bolts at the bottom of the column fix, and that did nothing. Took it apart, Loctited it, took it apart like 3 times before I realized that it's just where the pins go into the tilt mechanism is just wallowed out to the point that it just has this play to it, which is really frustrating on track, especially when the car is sliding and you're letting go of the wheel and grabbing it when the steering wheel is going like this. And the fact that I've got that steering wheel extension that brings it back just exaggerates the amount of play. And so they make oversized pins that may or may not fix it. I may have to replace the entire column, which is a pretty expensive proposition. And then lastly, and the biggest ticket item, is of course the engine. The LS1 has served faithfully for basically 2 decades now, and has absorbed some incredible abuse. And I've managed to keep it alive with 10W60 and 15W50 oil, but it's definitely on its last legs. It has a ton of blow by, and the oil pressure shoots up when you let off the gas, and then it shoots down when you get on the gas because the thrust bearings are completely gone. And I hate that feeling every time you go out on track. You're like, ooh, is today the day that she finally windows the block? I don't know. And so it'd be nice to have a reliable engine in the car. Now my goal when I contacted the shops about it was 550 rear wheel horsepower and something that, you know, I can beat on all day long. I'd love to hear your guys' advice on it. What do you think? Should I give up on the car? Should I bite the bullet and just throw 40 grand at it and see what the shop could come up with? Or should I store it and just wait until I actually can put the time into it to fix it myself? That's the other problem, is like every time I've dropped the car off at a shop for even minor maintenance, up, and then I have to redo it myself anyway. So I'm hesitant to give the car over to a shop. But let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious what you think about options. I mean, selling or trading the car in is kind of a wash because it's worth so little in its current condition. And lastly, since this is the best chance I'm going to have, I'm going to try and put together all the final videos. Basically, 4 coming, 2 for the aero. The first video is going to be how we modified the aero on the car to actually keep the car cool. And we took the water temps from 235 degrees down to 205 degrees, just with cutting holes and duct tape. And then secondly, trimming lap times with aerodynamics. That's going to be episode 2. And then 3 is going to be winning the LS Fest with the car, and 4 is going to be finally just the quick comparison of tracking the 3 cars on the same track, same day, same driver, and what it's been like. I've been extremely lucky to get to track those 3 cars and get to know them really well. And so I just wanted to share what it's been like wrenching on them, tracking them, and yeah. If anything, this is just a way of me helping myself make the decision of which cars to sell, keep, and what to buy next. So thanks for listening, and I hope you guys enjoy.